The studio lights were warm and bright. The View's music faded as Mark Wahlberg walked out to cheers. He smiled, shook hands, and sat down across from the hosts. Everyone expected an easy interview talk of his new film, his charity work, maybe a laugh or two about his Boston roots. That's what the promo had promised. He looked calm, confident. He wore a gray suit with an open collar. His body language was relaxed, his voice smooth. "I just want to use my platform to give back," he said early on, talking about his work with at-risk youth. "If I can show one kid that your past doesn't have to decide your future, that's a win." The crowd clapped. Joy Behar nodded. Along Sunny Hostin sipped her coffee. And then Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward slightly. Her tone shifted. "Mark," she said, "you've spoken about redemption before, about turning your life around. But how do you reconcile preaching forgiveness when your early life was full of violence, assaults, hate crimes, charges you served time for?" The air changed. Mark blinked, then gave a small nod. "I've never run from that," he said slowly. "I talk to those kids about it all the time. I was angry. I made terrible mistakes. I've spent my life trying to fix what I can and be a better man." Whoopi pressed, her voice sharper now. "But a lot of people don't get that chance. Mark, you did. Because you're famous. Because you had money. Why should you get a second chance when others don't even get a first?" There were no cheers now, just silence. Mark sat up straighter. His jaw tightened slightly. "I didn't get a second chance because of money," he said. "I earned it. I didn't pay to erase my past. I worked to change my future. I faced. What I did, I still do. Every single day." Sunny tried to cut in. "Let's talk about your new school program," but Whoopi interrupted again. "Some people say redemption is a luxury, a brand, that you're using it to clean up your image. What would you say to that?" Mark stared at her for a long moment. Then he leaned forward. "I didn't come here to be judged like this," he said quietly. "I came to talk about my work. I've already answered for my past. If this is about dragging me through it again for ratings, I'm not interested." The audience froze. Phones went up. Cameras zoomed in. Mark unhooked his mic, stood up, and looked around. "I'm not perfect," he said, "but I've changed, and I don't owe anyone a performance." Then he walked off stage, no music, no laughs. Just silence, and the faint echo of his footsteps leaving. The show cut to commercial. Early. Behind the scenes, producers scrambled. Joy looked stunned. Sunny flipped through her notes, unsure what to say. Whoopi sat still, unreadable dot within 5 minutes. The clip was everywhere. #Wahlberg walks. #redemption debate. #Whoopi vs Mark, Twitter. Instagram, TikTok, all flooded with reactions. Some supported Mark. Others said Whoopi asked what needed to be asked. Cable news channels replayed the clip in loops, with pundits weighing in on both sides. But while the world argued, one producer backstage sat frozen. Her phone buzzed with a new message. Came through Signal, the secure messaging app. No name, just a number she didn't recognize. The message said only 3 words. "Why now?" She stared at the screen. Her hands shook slightly. She knew what it meant, but not who sent it. And suddenly, it wasn't just a walkout. It wasn't just an interview gone wrong. Something deeper had started, and it wasn't going away. 20 hours later. Mark Wahlberg was on a private flight back to Lost Sea. Mark Wahlberg was on a private. And we stayed, and we all know I've been exploring that. And we all know I've been exploring that path. It wasn't just an interview. We are at X Press. We are at 2. We are at while we are at Wal K at. We are at with I do a sick 8 sick 1 we are at you are at P Wal cut we are at we used to see say you do we to see we if we do we can we with you we do we I we like I could with you with our archive with I with you at I with His phone was off. He hadn't spoken to any reporters, hadn't replied to texts from his agent or publicist. He stared out the small plane window, eyes heavy with thought. The world outside, however, wasn't quiet. The clip of him walking off the View had reached 50 million views across platforms. It was playing on cable news every hour. Its headlines used words like stormed out, explosive, controversial redemption. But Mark had said nothing since he left that stage, not even a tweet dot in the background. A quieter story was unfolding, one that hadn't reached the public yet. The young producer from The View, her name was Layla Ahmed, was sitting at a diner in Brooklyn staring at her phone. The signal message still showed on the screen. Why now? She hadn't told anyone. Not her supervisor, not the network, not even her boyfriend. The number that sent the message was encrypted, and when she tried to call it back, it disconnected immediately. Layla was smart. She knew how television worked. She also knew this message wasn't random. She had seen the production changes that morning before the show. She'd heard the whispers in the hallway about how the interview needed to hit harder. She'd seen the cue cards rewritten at the last minute as specially Whoopi's. Someone had pushed for that confrontation. Someone with power. And now, someone wanted it buried. Layla opened a laptop and searched through the production log. She cross-checked the list of last-minute script edits. One name caught her eye. M. Carver, external consultant. She didn't know the name. She had never seen it before on any previous episode. She clicked the internal system and checked access logs. M. Carver had submitted changes from a VPN registered in London. Layla frowned. The View didn't take editorial direction from international sources, especially not shadowy ones. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Mark sat in his car outside his home for almost 20 minutes. He wasn't afraid he'd faced worse. But something about the interview didn't feel like a normal ambush. It felt planted, coordinated, and the moment Whoopi said, "Some say redemption is a luxury," he had known this wasn't really about him. Someone was trying to use his past for something else. He scrolled through his inbox and paused at one. Unread email from an address he didn't recognize. Truthmodule@protonmail.com. Subject: "They're using you again." He hesitated, then clicked. The message was short. "You were chosen for a reason. They knew you'd react. You were bait." The question is, for what? Mark sat back in his seat. Bait? For what? He remembered something, a meeting 2 weeks ago. A charity gala in New York. A handshake with a man in a gray suit who said he was with a media development fund in Europe. The man had asked if Mark would ever consider speaking out on social justice funding models. Said he'd be the perfect face. Mark had politely declined. But now it felt connected. Back in Brooklyn, Layla downloaded the archived video files. From the control room feed, something caught her attention. Moments before Whoopi asked the first harsh question, her earpiece lit red. It was a signal. Someone had fed her the line. Layla rewound the footage 3 times. That meant someone was controlling the questions in real time, not just editing the script, directing it live. She sat back in her chair. This wasn't just about television anymore. It was political. It was personal. It was dangerous, and it had just begun. Layla didn't sleep that night. The cryptic message, the London VPN access, and the live earpiece signal all pointed to one thing. The interview with Mark Wahlberg had been hijacked. But why? The next morning, she met in secret with a friend from journalism school, Jonas Lee, now a tech reporter at a mid-level investigative outlet. They sat in the back of a quiet bookstore cafe near Union Square. Layla had brought a flash drive. "This isn't just a messy interview," she whispered. "It was planned. I have log files, timestamps, and raw video. Someone changed the script last minute from a ghost account." Jonas frowned. "And you think they did it to set him up?" "Not just him," she said. I think this show was a tool. Something bigger is moving. Jonas plugged the flash drive into his laptop. Within minutes, he was staring at IP records, metadata trails, and one unfamiliar name, M. Carver. Then he looked up sharply. Layla, this Carver person. There's chatter in dark data circles. That name popped up last year, linked to a think tank in Brussels 1 that got flagged by Interpol for funneling disinformation through media channels. Layla's stomach tightened. You mean, like propaganda? Like strategic influence campaigns, Jonas said. Designed to discredit people, stir conflict, target certain narratives. Layla stared at him. Then that means someone wanted Mark Wahlberg discredited. Jonas nodded, or distracted. Either way, they used a celebrity moment to control a public message. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Mark wasn't answering calls. But he wasn't hiding either. He was meeting with an old friend, Devin Ross, a former intelligence analyst turned independent researcher. Devin had worked in operations, but left the agency after a whistleblower scandal. Mark had never needed his help until now. They used my story, Mark said, pacing. Twisted my past and pushed it on national TV. But it wasn't just about me. It felt ... timed. Like they were using me to spark something. Devin listened, then said, You were a distraction. While the world talks about your walkout, something else gets buried. He pulled out a laptop and showed Mark a news article from an obscure European outlet. Headline, EU debates quiet military eye packed with U.S. defense contractors. Mark squinted. And, Devin said, while you were on that stage, this treaty moved forward without press coverage. You made noise. They used it to hide something silent. Mark sat down. You didn't like being a pawn. Not in Hollywood. Not in politics. Devin added, one of the firms named in this treaty, Goldberg Dynamics, has a history. They were once part of a military contract scandal you supported survivors from. Remember that LA Veterans Housing project you funded? That land was previously owned by them, Mark remembered. It had been one of his proudest achievements. Now it was linked to something else. Then I was their cover story, he said bitterly. Devin nodded. And Whoopi may not even know she was being fed lines. But someone made sure you walked off that set and made headlines doing it. That evening, back in New York, Layla received another signal message. You should stop digging. This is bigger than a guest segment. She felt cold. But she didn't back down. Instead, she sent Jonas everything. If I go quiet, she said, you publish it. Meanwhile, a burner phone buzzed inside a glass building in Geneva. A man in a charcoal suit read the latest U.S. news. He smirked. As he scrolled past headlines of Wahlberg's redemption clash, he put the phone down. Phase 2 was now ready. The morning after the viral storm, something unusual happened. Several American media websites, CNN, Vox, Politico, quietly edited their stories about Mark Wahlberg's walkout. Paragraphs about Whoopi's hardline questions were shortened. Mentions of redemption privilege disappeared entirely from some versions. No correction was issued, no explanation, just silence. Jonas noticed it first. He checked archive tools and found the originals still stored online. Side by side, the changes were undeniable. Someone was managing the narrative, cleaning the digital footprint. Layla leaned back in her chair, her throat dry. They're scrubbing the record. Which means you were right, Jonas said. It's a machine behind this. They both stared at the screen. Whoever had hijacked the View episode didn't want people talking about what was actually said. They wanted the image, Mark walking off in anger. A man with a complicated past flaring on live television. A distraction and a weapon. At the same time, Mark Wahlberg sat in a back room of a private gym in West Hollywood. His phone buzzed with calls from studios, charities, journalists, but he answered none. Devin Ross was on speakerphone, speaking low and fast. Mark, I ran a facial recognition sweep through private footage from the View taping. One of the audience members, former GCHQ analyst, British Signals Intelligence. Not supposed to be in. The country. Passport flagged 3 weeks ago. His name's Harris Black. Mark blinked. GCHQ. Like MI6's tech arm. Exactly. Hey, and here's the kicker, Devon said. It's not there as press. He used a fake production badge to get into the green room area. Mark stood up slowly. They planted him there. Devon didn't answer. He didn't need to. Back in New York, Layla dug deeper into the name M. Carver that had first appeared in the altered episode control logs. The trace led to a shell company based in Belgium, a media consulting firm, Visionel Strategies. But when Layla pulled up corporate records, something made her stop cold. The company's largest shareholder, a hedge fund known as Ithaca Global Ventures. Jonas sat beside her. I know that name. They were behind several media mergers last year, bought into satellite news, even a podcast network that turned very political very fast. Layla scrolled further. The fund had direct financial links to Globe Core Dynamics, the same military contractor Devon warned Mark about. That was the connection, the show, the scandal, the treaty. It all traced back to this firm hiding behind venture capital and private media shells. It wasn't just about silencing Mark Wahlberg. It was about controlling what America watched, what it thought, and what it never questioned. Suddenly, Layla's Signal app pinged again. This time, no warning. Just a file, encrypted, heavily secured. It took Jonas over an hour to break through the layers of protection. What they found made both of them go still. Meeting logs, flight itineraries, talking points for interviews, names of producers, schedules of upcoming media appearances by celebrities, each with bullet points referencing their scandals, controversies, or financial dependencies. Every show had a note beside it. Control asset. At the bottom of the document was one chilling phrase. You don't need to change the truth. Just change what people talk about. Layla felt sick. This wasn't just manipulation. This was infrastructure. A global architecture of narrative control built inside entertainment media, fueled by political money, enforced by psychological strategy, and deployed through fame, Jonas whispered. If we publish this, we'll lose everything. Layla replied, if we don't, everyone else will. But as they prepared the story, something unexpected happened. Layla's credentials to upload at her own network were revoked. Jonas's access to his cloud backup failed. Someone had already moved. Fast. In Los Angeles, Mark received a call from a number he didn't recognize. He hesitated, then picked up. A distorted voice said, "You're not supposed to be part of this. Walk away and you'll be safe. Stay in and the next show isn't an interview, it's an ending." Click. Mark looked out the window, eyes narrowing. Whoever thought he would be intimidated didn't know him at all. The black van pulled into the underground lot beneath a half-finished data center just outside Washington, D.C. The construction crews were gone for the weekend. Above them stood hundreds of tons of concrete, steel, and silence. Jonas stepped out first, holding the briefcase close to his chest. Layla followed, phone clutched tightly in her jacket. No cameras, no signals, just shadows. And yet, both of them knew they were being watched. A contact from Jonas's past had arranged this meeting, a whistleblower known only by their call sign Castle. Former cybersecurity architect at a top federal contractor. Fired, disappeared. Now back. Castle waited by the server cage, hood up, face lit only by a dim red flashlight. "You're late," they said, their voice calm but sharp. "They've already activated Meridian Protocol, which means in 30 minutes, everything you are will be erased from every database that matters. Financial, medical, legal, you'll be nobodies." Layla stepped forward. "Then we do it now. No leaks, no press. We dump the entire structure." Castle nodded. "Once I plug this in," he warned, tapping the custom drive Jonas had brought. You'll have 120 seconds before their AI firewalls kick in. And once that happens, it didn't need to finish. Jonas crouched beside the server terminal. His hands were shaking, but not from fear, from purpose. We're not just uploading data, he said. We're injecting truth into the system. The real footage, the scripts, the back-channel wire transfers. Everything. The screen flickered. Connection initialized. The files began uploading across the country. Major newsrooms received simultaneous anonymous dumps, unreleased audio of producers, coordinating with political operatives to corner celebrity guests, emails between a foreign intelligence front and Ithaca Global Ventures, and shocking receipts showing how viral walkouts had been used to discredit actors who resisted subtle recruitment offers. Mark Wahlberg's walkout. Not the first. Just the first to go off script. Back on the surface, the public reaction was immediate. News anchors tried to downplay it, unverified. Potential hoax, foreign interference, but viewers didn't buy it. They had seen too much, clips from The View, the uncut walkouts. Then video footage of backstage producers whispering instructions into earpieces, and finally, the receipts. Not rumors, not speculation, facts. Protests erupted outside media headquarters in Atlanta, New York, and Los Angeles. Journalists, real ones, began resigning on air, and yet, even amid the storm, something darker stirred. From a private estate in the French Alps, a woman watched the news unravel. She wore a slate gray suit, no makeup, and a discreet earpiece. Her name was never printed, but her hands were behind every scandal. The queen pin of Project Meridian. She turned to her assistant. Activate Phase 2. We can't stop the leak, so we drown it in noise. Launch fabricated files. Force the media into a spiral of self-doubt. Burn the truth with 10,000 lies. Orders relayed. Bots deployed. Disinformation flooded social platforms. But Layla and Jonas were ready. They had built a mirror network, one that verified every byte uploaded, validated every source, time-stamped every file. The truth was now mathematically undeniable. And then came the moment no one expected. Mark Wahlberg returned, not in a post, not in a press conference, but in person. He walked into a packed town hall meeting in Boston. No security, no PR team. It's just him, a plain shirt, and a wireless mic. I came here to say something, he began. They told me I was done. That walking off a show would end me. That telling the truth would bury me. But I'm still here, and I'm not the story. You are. We all are. We've let too many people script our lives, cut our voices, and stage our truths. That ends today. A long silence followed, then applause, then standing ovation across the country. Celebrities who had once remained silent began speaking up. Some revealed that they too had walked off shows that were never aired. Others admitted being threatened into silence or being rewritten mid-interview by political handlers. And one name came up again and again: Meridian. Congress held emergency hearings, subpoenas were issued, networks were audited, and a full investigation was launched into Ithaca Global Ventures, revealing connections to private intelligence firms, media moguls, and off-the-record operations run by non-governmental entities tied to lobbyists and billionaires. But the final blow came quietly, in a basement office at a small independent news agency. An intern found something buried in the metadata of the original files, a location tag, a single ping from a secure server deep in Zurich, and attached a note in untraceable type. We built the system. You broke it, but the real architects remain. The war wasn't over, but a revolution had begun. Jonas and Layla vanished into silence. Their last message left on an encrypted blog read by millions. Truth is not an event, it's a frequency. And now you've heard it. And with that, the story ended not with justice, but with awakening, because in a world controlled by performance, truth is the most dangerous act of all. The clip of Mark Wahlberg walking off The View continued to circulate on every platform. Morning shows replayed it. Talk shows debated it. Politicians even referenced it. But nobody was asking the right question. Why did the interview collapse the way it did? Why did a respected actor with a long record of community work lose his composure? And why was Whoopi Goldberg allowed to press so hard without network intervention? Layla and Jonas knew the answer. The world didn't. Not yet. At a warehouse space in Brooklyn turned into a makeshift newsroom, Layla and Jonas were running out of time. Every email they sent got blocked. Every phone call seemed to click. With artificial interference, they had the names, the files, the evidence, but no platform to publish. Mainstream newsrooms were compromised or scared. Independent sites were being flooded with legal threats. Layla rubbed her forehead and said, "We need a signal burst, something they can't stop in real time." Jonas, pacing, replied, "Then we go straight to the broadcast servers. If we hijack a live feed, even for 90 seconds, we can force the world to look." Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Mark Wahlberg was no longer just a public figure. He was a target. Security cameras outside his Beverly Hills home flickered. His car was followed twice that morning. And someone had sent a physical envelope to his gym no return address. Just a photo of him in the makeup chair backstage at The View. A red X was marked over his chest. It wasn't subtle. He met Devin Ross in a locked storage unit turned safe house. Inside, they had computers, satellite phones, and a map of media networks with red lines connecting executives to Ithaca Global Ventures. Devin handed Mark a tablet. "They're already working on the next takedown. You were a test run." Mark scrolled through the files. Names of other celebrities, journalists, even athletes marked as uncooperative. Staged interviews, pre-written controversies, planned meltdowns to bury stories that mattered. All of it masked as entertainment. He looked up. "They're rewriting reality in real time." "Exactly," Devin said. "And if you try to speak up now, you'll be painted as unstable." That's the system. Control the camera, control the world. Mark leaned against the wall. "Then we need to break the camera." Back in Brooklyn, Layla and Jonas found a vulnerability, a legacy connection. Between two major networks, one of which had scheduled a live global town hall about media responsibility hosted by several high-profile anchors. It was symbolic, heavily promoted, and ironically funded by Ithaca Global. Perfect. They wouldn't need hours. Just 60 seconds. They coded a broadcast intercept that would override the live feed with a code net, with a direct message, a montage of encrypted data, the real documents, and a voiceover explaining what was really happening behind the celebrity headlines. No edits, no commentary, just truth, pure and raw. But pulling it off required someone recognizable to say the words. Someone whose face people knew. Someone who had just gone viral for walking off a show. Layla called Mark. "This is your shot," she said. "Not as a movie star, as a witness." Mark didn't hesitate. An hour later, he stood in front of a single camera in an underground parking structure. Lights dim, his expression calm but hard. Jonas adjusted the lens. Mark looked straight ahead and said, "If you're watching this, it means we broke through. And it means you're not crazy for thinking something's wrong with the stories you're being fed, because they are wrong. And they're not just stories. They're operations." He paused, then continued. "I walked off that stage because I saw the script. It wasn't a question. It was a trap. And I'm not the only one they've targeted. What you see on TV, what trends online night's not. Always real. Sometimes it's carefully written to distract you from what matters. From who controls the signal." Jonas hit send. Across the country, during the live town hall, viewers' screens flickered. The feed changed. Mark's message began playing to millions. The war for the narrative had just gone public. The broadcast hit like a lightning bolt. across hotel rooms, phones, airports, schools, and office lobbies. Millions of viewers watched their screens. Glitch end, suddenly Mark Wahlberg's face appeared. The voiceover was steady, the words sharp. Within 90 seconds, the world had seen encrypted files, leaked production memos, redacted names of media handlers tied to political donors, and a blueprint of how celebrities, journalists, and even live interviews were being used as weapons. The footage ended with a final sentence in white text. If they silence truth-tellers, you'll only hear the lies. Networks scrambled to regain control. Producers yelled through headsets. The feed cut back to the hosts of the town hall, their faces pale, sweating, unsure whether to continue or go off air. One host, trying to laugh it off, called it a technical prank, but the damage was done. Clips of Mark's message flooded the internet. News agencies had no choice but to cover it. The public demanded answers. And suddenly, the scandal wasn't about a walkout, it was about control, about systems hiding behind entertainment. And now the mask had slipped. But truth, once unleashed, doesn't travel alone, it brings chaos. Within hours, Layla and Jonas became targets. Their Brooklyn safe house was compromised. Surveillance vans pulled up just 2 blocks away. A drone hovered above the alley behind them. Jonas didn't wait. He wiped the servers, packed only hard drives, and handed Layla a burner phone. They'll try to discredit us next. Change our story before it spreads. We need to stay mobile. She nodded, slipping the phone into her boot. And we need to reach someone big. Someone clean. A journalist they can't buy. At the same time in Los Angeles, Mark Wahlberg received a formal statement from his studio. His upcoming film premiere was canceled due to security concerns. The endorsements gone. The PR team silent. The same networks that once praised his redemption were now airing panels calling him unstable, reactionary, and dangerous. One commentator even suggested his message was AI-generated propaganda, claiming no Hollywood actor speaks like that off script. But Mark didn't run. He sent one more message, this time live on Instagram, this time without filters or editors. My career doesn't matter anymore, he said plainly. This isn't about a show or a film. It's about who owns the mic. And if they're trying to shut me up now, that should tell you everything. That video hit 50 million views in 3 hours. But with attention came threat and anonymous. Whistleblower from inside one of the major media firms sent Layla a chilling email. It was short. It's just one sentence. They're deploying Reputation Protocol 4. She read it twice, her breath caught. She knew what that meant: full destruction of identity. Leaked fake footage. Doctored calls, fabricated scandals. They wouldn't kill her or Jonas. They'd kill their credibility. Meanwhile, deep inside a government building in Washington, a low-level analyst stared at his screen. His job was to monitor international chatter around high-profile American news events. But what he found shocked him. Russian, Chinese, and even Middle Eastern networks were all broadcasting the same thing. Hollywood actor exposes Western. Media PSIP. State-sponsored TV from across the globe used Mark Wahlberg's message as proof of American hypocrisy. That wasn't just bad optics. It was political fire. Suddenly, the White House got involved. A press secretary dodged questions. A Senate committee quietly scheduled a hearing on misinformation weaponization. But no one could answer the one question being whispered across intelligence briefings. Who is running this? Because behind Ithaca Global Ventures was something deeper, something nameless. The files Layla had seen hinted at shell companies, owned by offshore trusts. Secret consulting contracts between government liaisons and media producers, and something tagged only as Project Meridian. Jonas stared at the name on the screen. "We expose Meridian," he said, "or this keeps happening forever." But doing so would require them to go beyond leaks. They needed to break into the system itself, and they'd only get one shot.